Hexes and Exes. Poppy Thorne's Tuesday night emergency involved two best friends, one half-eaten chocolate cake and a bottle of moon-blushed rosé that promised emotional clarity on the label, but mostly delivered irrepressible giggling. They sprawled across Poppy's tiny living room floor, surrounded by mismatched pillows and the cat familiar, Hecate, who lounged on a velvet cushion like a disdainful queen. The only illumination came from candles, flickering on every shelf. Lavender for calm, chamomile for comfort, and a single crimson taper for courage that hissed whenever anyone's voice wavered. Poppy tipped the bottle to pour another round, cheeks flushed, curls frizzing wildly around her face. "I'm over, Oliver," she insisted, sloshing wine into mismatched mugs adorned with snarky witch quotes. "Completely, absolutely 100%. The declaration wobbled as much as the liquid. Marigold, a petite witch in rainbow overalls, wrinkled her nose. "That's why you've said his name 12 times in 5 minutes? Tamsin, Poppy's taller, dry-humored cousin, shoved a forkful of cake between Marigold's lips. "Let her grieve, Goldie. Heartbreak math says you need at least 3 rants per X before the universe resets your karmic balance." Poppy raised her mug in shaky toast. "To karmic resets." She gulped the rosé, which fizzed with subtle magic, then exhaled dramatically. "I just hate that he took the potted moon lilies. I nurtured those things for 6 months." Marigold frowned. "He can't keep magical flora past the breakup. That violates basic coven etiquette." Apparently etiquette never impressed Oliver. Poppy made jazz hands that sent a candle guttering. "So I propose a tiny ritual. Nothing dangerous. Just a gentle bad karma cleanse to remove X energy from my aura." "Ritual after rosé," Tamsin mused. What could go wrong? Hecate's tail twitched as if offering a suggestion. Everything. But Poppy was already tottering to her herb shelf. She grabbed lavender, sage, rose petals, and a dusty vial labeled Essence of Honest Tears, procured from a shady apothecary who insisted it paired well with heartbreak spells. She sliced a lemon for brightness. Real lemons, not magical ones. Her friends helped, clearing space on the coffee table. They formed a pseudo-circle, knees touching. Poppy recited incantation fragments half-remembered from an old grimoire, words thick on her tongue. Wine sloshed again, this time poured into a brass cauldron with the herbs. The crimson candle's flame leaned forward like it wanted front-row seats. As Poppy added the tear essence, a gust rattled the window despite calm weather, and the cat gave a low, warning meow. Marigold hesitated. "Maybe we should wait until we're clear-headed." "Too late," Poppy said brightly. "The energy's flowing. Just visualize releasing X's from my life, lovingly, peacefully, permanently." The 3 witches clasped hands and chanted. At first only the wine bubbled. Then the potion flashed, deep pink, releasing tiny heart-shaped sparks that floated upward, popped, and dissolved in sugar-sweet puffs. Tamsin's eyebrows shot up. "That's unusually cute." Poppy leaned closer. The sparks multiplied, swirling like confetti. Each popped heart let out a harmonic ping. The crimson candle flared blue, then white, then puffed out with a hiss. The living room dimmed, the sparks vanished, and the cauldron went still, smooth surface reflecting 3 startled faces. Silence stretched. Hecate hopped off the cushion, sniffed the air, and stalked away, as if disclaiming responsibility. Marigold broke the hush. "Well, that wasn't so bad." Tamsin groaned softly, poking the cauldron. "Either we just invented alcoholic cotton candy or miscast some kind of Hallmark special." Poppy swayed with giddy relief. "I feel lighter, see? Rosy clarity." They finished the bottle, retrieved blankets, and fell asleep in a pile of limbs. The night passed without further drama, except for Hecate batting at an invisible string near the doorway, growling in a low register that made the candles flicker. Morning arrived with savage sunlight piercing the curtains and a knock at the door that vibrated through Poppy's skull. She disentangled herself from friends, each complaining about cotton mouth. and stumbled to the entrance in sleep-creased pajamas. On her porch stood Eli Carver, the poet ex from college. He wore a floppy beret, of course, and clutched a battered notebook. His eyes lit up like dawn breaking over lavender fields. "Poppy divine, radiant goddess of my heart's eternal rhyme," he intoned. "Your face is the sun that melts my every line." Poppy blinked. "Eli, why are you here? It's barely 9. He scribbled furiously. "Brilliant. Barely 9. Rhymes with divine. Fate writes through you." He thrust a bouquet of wildflowers toward her, petals still dripping dew. "Take these humble offerings as token of my undying resurrected devotion." Resurrected? The word pinged a memory. Poppy's stomach flipped. "You broke up with me 2 years ago because my familiar stole your copy of Howl." Folly of youth. He pressed a hand to his chest. "I see now my life without you is an incomplete stanza." Behind him, Tamsin and Marigold peeked around Poppy's shoulders, eyes wide. Marigold whispered, "Please tell me we didn't summon the X-Brigade." Eli craned his neck. "Ah, you're clever companions. Friends are but punctuation. You are the sentence that completes me." Marigold gagged softly. Poppy tried to shut the door. Eli's foot wedged the frame. "We'll talk later," she hissed. "I shall await your call like autumn awaits first frost," he declared. Stepping back, he scribbled a quick note, tucked it into the bouquet, and walked backwards down the steps, reciting spontaneously. The door clicked shut. Poppy whirled to her friends. "This is bad." Tamsin scratched her head. "Let's not panic yet. Maybe he's going through a weird nostalgia phase." Doorbell again. Poppy cracked it open and clapped a hand over her mouth. On the curb, Brad Magnus, 6'5" werewolf gym junkie, was unloading free weights from his truck, stacking them on her lawn. He wore neon short shorts and nothing else, glistening with early morning sweat. "Morning, Pop-Tart," he called cheerfully. "Thought I'd set up a home gym for you. Gotta keep my girl strong." Marigold squealed, half horrified, half impressed. "He remembered your childhood nickname?" Poppy slammed door, heartbeat galloping. "Okay, we definitely messed something up. Eli's sudden passion, Brad's grand romantic gesture, this reeks of compulsion magic." Tamsin reached for the cauldron still sitting on the coffee table, the potion now solidified into crystallized sugar hearts. "Our little cleanse might not have been a cleanse." She plucked a shard. "More like a rebound magnet." "Like a magical boomerang," Marigold said. "But only for exes." She snapped her fingers. "Re-love me. That's a forbidden sub-chapter in Spell Mishaps Quarterly." Poppy groaned into her hands. "I just wanted to banish X energy, not reactivate it." Outside, Brad's weights clanged and Eli's sonnets wafted through open windows. Hecate yowled at the intrusion, then slunk under the sofa. Tamsin rubbed temples. "We need to reverse this. Immediately. Who's versed in rogue emotion spells?" As if fate answered, a gentle knock sounded on the adjoining apartment wall, followed by an apologetic voice. "Hello? Sorry to intrude. I'm Theo, your new neighbor. Would you mind lowering the poetry? It's echoing through my dissertation on pre-meridian enchantments." Poppy's gaze snapped upward. She strode to the shared wall, knocked back. "Come in if you dare." Theo entered moments later through the open front door. He was tallish, with slightly mussed-brown hair, wire-rimmed glasses slipping down his nose, and a cardigan that made him look like a grad student who'd taken a wrong turn into Moonhollow's chaos. He carried a stack of leather-bound journals. His eyes flicked past Tamsin and Marigold to Poppy's disheveled state and the poet outside. He adjusted glasses. "I thought the local rumor of serenading exes was exaggeration." Before Poppy could craft a lie, Eli reappeared at the doorframe, notebook raised. "Fair lady, may I paint your visage in morning's light?" Theo blinked. "That's persistent." Poppy shoved the door again. "Eclipse later, Shakespeare." Eli sighed dramatically but retreated to the sidewalk where Brad had started lunges with a barbell. Theo cleared his throat. Charmed to meet you all, though I'm guessing you didn't summon a poet and a werewolf for breakfast. Marigold pointed at the cauldron shard. Wine, heartbreak, accidental rogue spell. Theo's brows lifted with scholarly delight. Re-love me? Those are rare and usually unstable. Impressive misfire. Not helpful, Poppy muttered. Can you fix it? Theo's smile turned sheepish. Theory is my realm, but yes, reversal is possible. We'll need a stabilizer, likely tied to the heart's true intention. His gaze rested on Poppy, curious and kind. May I examine the ritual remnants? She hesitated, embarrassment flaring. My apartment's a disaster zone of poor life choices. Academic hazard accepted. Theo set his journals on a chair, rolled up cardigan sleeves, and peered into the cauldron. He sniffed, prodded the sugar crystals that pulsed pink. Your emotional energy combined with volcanic rosé created a potent catalyst. Full moon amplified longing, transmuted into attraction. Results. Exes compelled to re-pursue original romantic dynamic, minus memory of why it ended. Tamsin whistled. Smart cookie. Poppy felt heat that had nothing to do with guilt as she watched Theo work. Focused brow, gentle fingers, soft exhale when he concluded. So how do we unwoo them? 3 steps, Theo said. 1. Gather emotional residue from each target to ground the excess attraction. Something sweaty, something poetic, something vampiric. He winced at that. 2. Craft a sincerity anchor that proves your current heart stands separate from theirs. 3. Cast reversal under the lunar eclipse in 48 hours. Poppy sagged. 48 hours of exhale. He offered an encouraging smile. With assistance manageable, step 1 starts now. Outside, Eli sang a sonnet about dew and heartbreak. Brad performed kettlebell swings with fervor. Poppy glanced at Theo, then at her friends. Fine, Operation Exorcism begins, but first, coffee and maybe real clothes. Theo's gaze softened. Take your time, I'll gather supplies. He stepped out, nearly colliding with Sebastian the vampire, who twirled up the path in velvet coat, clutching a dusty bottle labeled Chateau O Negative. Poppy slammed the door before the serenade began, leaning against it with a groan. Marigold giggled. Well, at least they're diverse. Tamsin clapped Poppy's shoulder. Look on the bright side, your love life's more active than it's ever been. Poppy glared, but laughter bubbled despite herself. Next time I'll just eat the cake and watch sad movies. Hecate sauntered from beneath the sofa, tail lashing. The cat stared at Poppy, then at the X-parade outside, then meowed with unmistakable judgment. Poppy scratched her familiar's head. Don't look at me like that. Everyone experiments with wine magic at least once. The cat's eyes narrowed as if saying, not like this. Poppy exhaled, marching toward her bedroom. Fine, I deserve the judgment, but I'm fixing it. With or without help from Cardigan Boy next door. Marigold called after her. Cardigan Boy has nice shoulders. Tamsin smirked. And he knows spells. A deadly combo. Poppy paused at the doorway, a reluctant grin tugging. She wouldn't admit it, but the nerdy historian's calm intelligence already soothed her frazzled nerves. And when he'd offered help, his gaze held neither pity nor ridicule. Just genuine curiosity and something else she couldn't name. She rolled her shoulders. Disaster first, analysis later. She had curses to reverse, ex-boyfriends to de-charm, and maybe accidentally, a cute neighbor problem to address. All before an eclipse that waited for no witch's hangover. She emerged in jeans and a worn tee emblazoned with practical magic as my cardio. Outside, Eli and Brad had set up a makeshift competition. Poetry duel versus bench press max, to impress their shared love. Sebastian stood by with wine, like a gothic referee. Poppy groaned. Tamsin handed her a to-go mug of coffee and chanted to stay hot. Marigold offered sunglasses that cast mild glamour to hide under-eye circles. Poppy squared her shoulders. Let's wrangle some X's. Poppy's game plan crumbled 10 minutes after leaving the porch. Step 1 had sounded simple when Theo outlined it in his calm professor voice. Obtain something sweaty from Brad, a fresh poem from Eli, and an unfiltered emotional token from Sebastian. Apparently, sweaty wolves enjoyed showing off. She approached Brad mid-push-up marathon on her lawn. He leaped up, grinning through glistening abs. Need a spot, pup? Need your workout towel, she said, trying not to blush at the nickname he had once used sparingly in private. Souvenir. Anything for my motivation muse. He flung the towel, still dripping, across her shoulders like a victory sash. She gagged softly. The smell was intense. Wet dog crossed with eucalyptus protein spray. Marigold conjured a plastic bag, shoved the towel inside, sealed it with a wrinkle of her nose. Eli sauntered past, reciting aloud while scribbling. Your eyes a sunrise, your hair the dawn, in rhyme's embrace my heart is drawn. Great. Poppy plucked the notebook from his hands. First draft privilege. She tore out the freshest page and handed the book back. He clutched it, sighing at her bold editorial authority. One ingredient down. Step 3 proved trickier. Sebastian waited beside a black convertible parked illegally, cloak swirling despite total lack of wind. He bowed. Fair enchantress, I brought vintage sanguine. He lifted the bottle. 92. Very robust. Theo materialized at Poppy's elbow before she could respond. His soft voice carried surprising firmness. She prefers sunshine rosé these days. He eyed the vampire. And you'll need to hand over 2 vials of unwarded tears. Sebastian blinked. Tears? Vampires don't cry. If your love is genuine, Theo said, crossing arms, the spell will oblige. He held out a crystal vial. Sebastian's shoulders drooped melodramatically. He unscrewed the bottle, sniffed, then puffed out a single tear, pink tinged into the vial. Poppy watched, equal parts fascinated and horrified. 2 more tears followed with theatrical sighs. Theo corked the vial, offered polite thanks, and shepherded Poppy back toward the front door. Inside, they set trophies on the dining table now covered in open grimoires. Tamsin sprinkled protective salt. Marigold pinned towel corners so sweat didn't drip onto pages. Hecate perched on the fridge, supervising. Theo studied the chaotic display. Next step, distill emotional residue. We'll need an isolation circle. Poppy chewed her lip. Isolation circles have a tendency to, expose feelings. She eyed him. Potentially embarrassing ones. Occupational hazard, he said, flushing slightly. But I promise confidentiality. Tamsin smirked at Marigold behind them. Poppy pretended not to notice. Fine. Circle first, then coffee refill. They chalked glyphs on the hardwood while Brad bench-pressed a tree stump visible through the bay window. Eli sat cross-legged reciting heartbreak haikus. Sebastian attempted to tune a mandolin. Poppy's patience frayed. Theo knelt across from her inside the circle. Ready? She inhaled. Let's do damage control. The chalk flared blue, forming a translucent dome. Immediately, a pulse of energy slammed them back to back. Visions flickered. Poppy remembering Oliver's breakup speech delivered by text. Theo remembering a past witch rolling her eyes and disappearing. Their private hurts tangled. Poppy's throat tightened. This part never gets easier. Theo's voice came soft, close behind. Let me carry some. He extended mental steadiness through the link. The dome calmed, energy funneling toward the table where the ingredients shimmered then clinked into liquid vials. Sweat condensed into glowing amber, tears into rose gold, poem ink into silver script floating above parchment. The circle dimmed. Poppy and Theo faced each other, breaths intermingling. Marigold applauded. Good show. 0 scorch marks. Tamsin poured more coffee. Next up, sincerity anchor. Poppy groaned. That requires a truth circle. She shot Theo an apologetic glance. He smiled ruefully. I'm game if you are. They reset glyphs into a smaller ring. This one pulsed pale pink, thrumming like a heartbeat. Poppy's pulse thudded double time. Hecate curled at the circle's edge, tail flicking with perverse interest. Theo clasped Poppy's hands. Rule is simple. Speak only truth until the circle dissolves. Okay, she whispered, palms sweating. Marigold lit a match. Pink flame rose, then vanished. The spell began. Theo cleared his throat. I like your laugh. It reminds me of wind chimes. Poppy's cheeks heated. I like your brain. It reminds me why I loved spell theory class. He exhaled. I'm nervous because I want you to trust me and I don't want to mess up. I'm nervous because I'm attracted to you and it scares me more than cursed exes. Their eyes widened simultaneously. Tamsin mouthed, well. The circle glowed brighter, satisfied. A small crystal formed between their joined hands, clear with a warm amber core. Truth anchor complete. The circle faded, releasing them with a rush of relieved laughter. Outside, a crash sounded. Sebastian toppled his mandolin stand. Eli shouted about unrequited metaphors. Brad barked at them to lower the drama. The chaos crescendo had arrived. Poppy stepped onto the porch just in time for Eli and Brad to square off, poet versus werewolf, each proclaiming superior devotion. Sebastian attempted mediation using interpretive dance. Onlookers from neighboring houses snapped photos. Moonhollow gossip would explode by noon. Enough, Poppy shouted, voice amplified by minor charm. The exes froze mid-insult. I appreciate your enthusiasm, but I'm busy undoing a spell. Please respect my space until tonight. Brad's ears drooped. Eli clutched his heart. Sebastian bowed like a forlorn opera singer. They trudged to their respective vehicles, promising to return at dusk. Poppy collapsed against railing. Theo appeared at her side. I have an idea to keep them occupied. Give each a quest impossible to complete before eclipse. She laughed. Send Brad to find mermaid whey protein. Eli to perfect an original villanelle. Sebastian to source ethically donated dragon blood. Her shoulders relaxed. Thank you. The afternoon vanished in preparations. Marigold brewed charmed chamomile. Tamsin enforced catguard duty to deter further serenades. Theo and Poppy ground ingredients, careful not to cross-contaminate. During a quiet moment, Poppy asked, Why move to Moonhollow? Theo adjusted glasses. Research. This town has the largest collection of unsolved wild magic events and... He smiled shyly. I wanted somewhere new, where I wasn't just the academic recluse. I get that, she said. I came to escape big city coven politics. She hesitated. Do you ever fear being boring? Constantly, he admitted, but tonight's proved me wrong. He offered a timid grin. Your life is exhilarating. She nudged his shoulder. Too much exhilaration might age you. I'll risk wrinkles. Evening fell. Exes returned, each triumphant in failure. Brad lugged a barrel labeled probable fish oil, not mermaid whey. Eli recited a maddening near villanelle. Sebastian presented dragon blood hot sauce, which exploded on contact with oxygen. Poppy ushered them into her yard, chalked an outer boundary rune to avoid property damage. Inside, the final spell components gleamed on the altar. Sweat amber, poem silver, tear rose gold, truth crystal. Theo set the lunar eclipse timer, 90 minutes. Poppy's stomach nodded. She checked on Hecate, found the cat perched atop the fridge wearing a tiny witch hat someone Marigold must have stitched. With half an hour left, a knock rattled the door. Oliver stood on the porch, moon lilies in hand, eyes vacant and glassy. Poppy's heart plunged. She hadn't even remembered him in the X list. Apparently wine did. Oliver stepped forward mechanically. I need you, he intoned. I always have. Theo moved protectively at Poppy's side. Brad, Eli, and Sebastian sensed new competition, closing ranks. The air thickened with testosterone, perfume, and latent moon magic. Oliver's bouquet shimmered, petals unfurling like miniature satellites attuned to Poppy's heartbeat. She recognized reckless spell resonance, the curse intensifying as eclipse neared. "We start reversal now," she told Theo. He nodded briskly, herding X's into a wider yard circle. They obeyed, compelled by spell and perhaps Theo's calm authority. Poppy stood at the altar, candlelight flickering across her anxious face. Above, the moon's edge began to darken. Theo took her hand. "Focus on who you are now, not who you were with them." She squeezed back, finding strength. "Ready?" He smiled, steady and sure. Together. Moonhollow's long yards and tidy cottages blurred into silhouettes as the lunar eclipse deepened, turning the sky a bruised violet. Poppy's backyard glowed with chalk runes and scattered candles, but every flame trembled under the tug of volatile love magic. The circle of X's paced restlessly, stealing competitive glances. Oliver hovered nearest the altar, his bouquet of moon lilies shedding shimmering pollen that drifted toward Poppy like magnetic dust. She coughed and swiped at the swirling sparks. Theo tightened his grip on her hand. "Moon's shadow is halfway. We cast the reversal when it reaches totality." His eyes darted over the notes he'd scrawled in tidy runes across his forearm. "We need every ingredient inside the cauldron before the shadow peaks." Brad flexed, eyeing Oliver. "Why is Suit Boy in the inner ring? Circle's full." He thumped a pectoral. "Only room for 3 rivals." Sebastian sighed theatrically. The heart knows no seating chart. He leaned to Oliver. "I admire your bouquet. You stole her favorite plant. Bold strategy." Oliver blinked. "They're ours forever," he murmured, still dazed. Eli produced a 3-page poem titled Sonnets for the Eclipse and cleared his throat. "Allow me to lull the lady while you all scramble for second place." Poppy rubbed her temples. "Quiet, every one of you." She raised her voice with mild amplification. "In a moment, I'm performing a spell that will release the charm. You will feel a sudden change. Please do not panic, fight, or rhyme about it." Eli's mouth opened. She sent a small fizz of sparks that smacked his ankle. He yelped and shut it. Tamsin and Marigold stood near the kitchen door, clutching extra salt jars and a fire extinguisher enchanted for arcane mishaps. Hecate sat on a fence post, tail swishing an ominous beat. Poppy turned to Theo. "Ingredients?" He passed the sealed vials one by one. She poured Brad's towel essence. The amber goo fizzled, releasing tiny holographic images. Brad flexing, Brad moonbathing, Brad flipping tires. Next, Eli's floating silver letters slipped into the cauldron, dissolving with melodic plinks. Sebastian's rose gold tears followed, emitting a faint operatic hum before sinking. When they touched the bottom, a spiral of color rose. Orange hunger, silver longing, pink melodrama. They spun but didn't combine, locked in a tug-of-war shaped like 3 small tornadoes. Theo lifted the truth crystal created in the earlier circle. Anchor of intention, formed by honesty, freely given. He lowered it into the maelstrom. The swirling colors rushed inward, shimmering at the core. Poppy exhaled. Stage 1 complete. She wiped sweat. Now the personal release phrase. Everyone hold a sprig of rosemary and say, "My heart returns to its own journey." Sebastian sniffed his herb. Rosemary clashes with AB-positive bouquet. Brad tried to eat his until Eli slapped his hand. All spoke the phrase, although Oliver parroted like an emotionless macaw. The rosemary burned in rainbow sparks. The cauldron's glow steadied, but a shadow rippled across the lawn, the moon's last sliver of white about to disappear. Theo whispered, "Time." Poppy stood before the cauldron, raising her hands. "Balance my past, set the heartstrings free, bind no one else's will to me." Her voice filled the yard, warm and commanding. The potion erupted in a plume of white smoke that raced outward like fog from a theatrical stage cannon. It swept through the X's, dissolving on contact. Eli blinked, shook his head as if surfacing from sleep. Brad dropped a dumbbell. Sebastian clutched his cloak and muttered, "Oh dear." Even Oliver's gaze cleared momentarily. Then a furious snarl cut through the hush. Brad seized Oliver's arm. "You stole her moon lilies." He thrust him back. "Those are sacred flora." Oliver recoiled, confusion flashing to anger. "She left them when she moved out. They're half mine." Eli barreled between them, waggling notebook. "Possession by gardening is an obsolete art. Also, stop manhandling the florist." He had forgotten his earlier devotion, but apparently retained protective instincts for whomever he considered underdog. Sebastian slid in. "Friends, let us not—" Brad's shove sent Sebastian into the herb beds, crushing lavender. Sebastian hissed, fangs popping involuntarily. Eli tripped over a kettlebell. Oliver swung the bouquet like a mace, scattering enchanted pollen. The pheromone-rich fluff whooshed into Brad's snout. His eyes gleamed feral golden. He threw back his head and howled so loudly, warding chimes shook 2 streets away. Marigold shrieked, "Residual love dust in the bouquet, it's reigniting the compulsion." Sebastian, eyes swirling crimson, lunged for Poppy with surprising speed. "You're not safe near these brutes," he hissed protectively. Theo stepped between, brandishing a runic chalkstick like a dagger. "Back off, Nosferatu." Sebastian blinked at the nickname, confusion warring with enchantment. Brad tackled Theo from behind, sending chalk skittering. Oliver staggered in circles, pollen cloud expanding. Poppy sprinted to the cauldron, scanned notes. "We need to neutralize the moonlily pollen. It's acting as a residual attraction amplifier." Tamsin lobbed her salt jar. Poppy snapped a quick incantation. The jar exploded midair into a burst of shimmering salt rain that fell across the yard. Where grains landed, the pollen glitter motes fizzled. Oliver collapsed to knees, coughing. Brad shook his head, senses clearing. Sebastian rubbed temples. Eli climbed off a toppled lawn flamingo. "This is the worst open mic I've attended." Theo picked himself off the grass, cardigan torn at the elbow, but otherwise fine. He locked eyes with Poppy. "You okay?" "Ask me tomorrow." She helped Oliver up. "You remember anything?" He squinted. "Last week? Not really. Are these mine?" He held wilted moon lilies, pollen mostly spent. "I should apologize." He paused. "I broke up with you by text?" "That was cowardly." "It was." She managed a rueful smile. "Keep the lilies. They match your aura," which was currently a desaturated gray. Brad offered a sheepish shrug, holding out the sweat-soaked towel. Sorry for the yard, Jim. I'll haul it out." Eli tore his poem into confetti. "I'll never rhyme love with dove again." He frowned at Sebastian. "Unless it's ironic." Sebastian dabbed at his cloak with a handkerchief embroidered with tiny bats. "I shall remove my dreadful music from your voicemail." Tamsin guided X's toward the gate with an efficiency that impressed even Marigold. Within minutes, the street emptied, save for Brad's truck idling while he loaded weight racks, Eli pedaling away on a squeaky bike, Sebastian gliding into his convertible to brood under safer conditions, and Oliver wandering back to his apartment to nurse humiliation and repot his half-dead flowers. The moon's shadow lifted by degrees and the eclipse began its exit. A hush settled over the wrecked yard. Candles flickered out. The cauldron cooled, potion spent. Poppy stood amid fallen petals, sweat-damp curls plastered to her cheeks. Relief swept in but carried a hollow ache. She turned to Theo. He wiped dirt off his palms. "Spells broken, X's free, are you?" She opened her mouth, found words tangled. The question felt enormous. Was she free? From fear? From lonely patterns? "I think so," she whispered. "But I'm tired of releasing things. Maybe it's time to hold on to something worth keeping." Theo's smile warmed like sunrise. "I volunteer for long-term study." She laughed, tears of exhaustion pricking eyes. "One condition. No more impromptu truth circles until we both sleep for 12 hours. Deal. He stepped closer, lowering voice. Confession outside the circle. I've wanted to kiss you since you shot sparks at that poet. You sure there's no residual magic? She teased, though her heart pounded. He drew a rune in the air, quick and precise. It glowed, then vanished. Magically null. Good. She rose on tiptoe, brushed her lips to his. The kiss bloomed, gentle, then deeper, sparking warmth that traveled through every nerve but carried no chaotic magic, only the steady hum of affection and possibility. He tasted faintly of coffee and clover. When they parted, Hecate meowed loudly as if to say finally. The cat hopped to the grass, rubbed against Theo's ankles, a rare blessing. Tamsin whistled approvingly from the porch. Marigold wiped an imaginary tear. Theo, cheeks flushed, rested forehead to Poppy's. Coffee date tomorrow? Coffee, cat-approved pastries, maybe a nap in between. She grinned. And a spell journal update. Later, after friends departed to enforce neighborhood rumor control and exes faded into footnotes, Poppy swept broken lavender and chalk into a pile. Theo helped secure windows blown ajar by stray magic gusts. They found themselves in the kitchen, where moonlight streamed through curtains still drifting from earlier chaos. Hecate leapt onto the counter, circling before settling neatly beside Poppy's open spell journal. The familiar's tale tapped the page insistently. Poppy wrote with glittering ink. Today I learned 3 things. Wine plus heartbreak equals chaos. Ex-boyfriend armies can be disbanded without casualties if friends, cats, and one adorable historian intervene. Trust feels a lot like magic, but it's real, and I want more. She signed her name, then added a footnote in smaller script. No wine spells without Theo. He peeked, chuckling. Permission to co-sign future experiments? Granted. She closed the book. But let's start simple, coffee like you said. And maybe repotting replacement moon lilies. As long as they're ours, he said softly, drawing her into a hug. She nestled under his chin, exhaling the tension of the day. Outside, Moonhollow's street lamps hummed, gossiping pixies zipped between flower boxes, and the air smelled faintly of spell-dosed pollen and fresh beginnings. The eclipse's lingering glow painted silver outlines around everything. Crooked fence pickets, kettle dents, the historian's rumpled cardigan. Theo brushed a curl from her forehead. So this is the end of the chaos? Not a chance, she answered with a grin, just the fun kind now. He kissed her again, slower this time, and the kitchen clock ticked gently on. Magic wasn't swirling, but the moment felt enchanted all the same. Somewhere in the yard, Brad's forgotten dumbbell sparkled with residual love dust, but it could wait until morning. For now there was only soft laughter, clinking mugs, and the purring approval of a cat who knew better than anyone. Love, like witchcraft, thrives on a little risk, a lot of heart, and the courage to try again even after spells go sideways. And under the slowly brightening moon, Poppy and Theo did just that, starting with another kiss, a promise of coffee, and the exhilarating certainty that sometimes the best kind of magic is simply letting the right person stay.